First of all, I just want to say thank you, Gab. I'm thankful too for the fact that it's just so obvious that what's happening to us target individual is that we're being altered and manipulated. Even though there is a strong effort, a systematic effort to break down the target individual, to make them identify with these things. I just heard some like whipping noise. It's part of like they have this like brain washing tactics that's so like textbook. And on top of that, you have this like ecosystem of people around you that interact with you via V2K, and what they're gonna try to do is to negate what you're gonna hear there, because you're gonna clearly hear the obvious validation that this is really just about altering and manipulating the target individual. And this technology has the ability to do these things, and not only has this ability, they have the systematic things that they do to target individual. Meaning, when I mean systematic, is just like the tactics are not unique to one target individual. They do the same things to other target individual. And so as I'm, prepping this video, it's just perfect because they're doing the things that I'm gonna clearly describe here. And they're going through different scripts of things they say and things they're supposed to make me think that I'm not being manipulated in the ways they manipulate others. One thing you're going to clearly hear as a target individual, first of all, you got to understand that unfortunately what you are now part of is you're just a guinea pig, a test subject, where these governmental entities are utilizing you as a test subject. And the technology that they are applying onto you is technology that they've been developing for a long time. This technology is going to sound science fictional, but unfortunately it's not. Unfortunately, these governmental entities behind this program, which you're going to hear is the Department of Defense, have been dedicating years in developing, in improving, and in developing the technology that can, at the end of the day, manipulate you. That is the goal. That's what they've been trying to do. That's what they invested their money into, is to be able to do that. And then now it's even so refined that the manipulations are to another level. But on top of that, they have these clowns that's around you that are supposed to just gaslight you. Oh my gosh. For me, I don't know, is it because the sophistication of this technology, you don't need to be a genius. Actually, I think that there's a lot of like minimizing yourself. And what I mean by minimizing yourself is because you can hear these perps doing whatever they can to just disorient you, and they do that via what you're going to hear as V2K, voice to skull. And you're going to hear the technology that can pipe voices into your brain, and you hear these pipe voices into your brain of clowns who just go through scripts of things that are supposed to disorient you and deflect from obviously what they do. And for me, they have this other level of like this ecosystem of these clowns are supposed to make me subscribe to these things. It's funny when I make these videos, all right, I get like there's people who like, oh, we believe you, and they're perps. The people who are participating in this or involved
is that I got very concerned about. One was weather modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings.
People who like, oh, we believe you, and they're perps. The people who are participating in this or involve themselves in this are supposed to gaslight me because they tell me they don't believe me. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being involved in something that you know is doing something, is changing people, and then that person is like, I clearly not being manipulated, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm believing you. Me involved in this. Oh. So they have a lot of these gimmicks that's happening around you. It's part of the gaslighting and the brainwashing tactics. But some of it is just more agitating than brainwashing. And they're like, yeah, they believe you. I was like, yeah, it's clear, it's obvious that I'm being manipulated. Target individual, there's no need to explain what's happened to you. When there's validation of this nature, you just have to be able to think. That's it. You don't even need to critically think. You just need to think. And I love to put that in their faces, because what it means is these clowns have to be retarded to make you believe that you're not being manipulated. They have to just be mentally challenged. And maybe that's why I deal with a lot of childlike individuals. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe that's why this childlike individuals partake in this. Because, I mean, let's just say children usually are on a spectrum, right? They're not fully developed mentally, and it's easy to, as a child, to be very fantasizing like individual. But it's so obvious. And I love to put that in their faces and challenge them to think in this retarded way. And I love to see how they have to negate this reality. I've been clear. I know since August 19, 2019, my brain has been altered to experience degrading experiences. And I understand why they do that. Because as this technology is being developed and improved, it has a purpose to break down the target individual. It's weaponized. And who I'm hearing interacting with me, their job is to make me think that I'm not being manipulated. And they use this different verbiage. No, we're mapping your brain. We're doing this. We're mining. We're studying. Like, they use childlike clowns. That while you're gonna hear what's gonna happen, what is clearly happening here, they were saying all kind of things. And for me, when they manipulate me in this degrading way, where you're gonna hear the term the pedophilia type of torture from another target individual who deals with the same disturbing manipulations or manipulation of the same nature, calling it the pedophilia type of torture. So for me, they're like, no, what we're doing, we're mapping to your brain. If, for example, for me, when they make me have these experiences that I'm experiencing today as an adult person, they make me think of, but remember when you were in middle school, which actually is something they utilize in order for you to identify with the current experiences, which is impossible to negate the fact that they do that to others. But listen, they bring up what I did as a child in middle school, this impulsive act of a child that I never thought about it ever again, something I just did impulsively as a middle school child in 13, 14 years old, right? To utilize that to make me identify with what I'm experiencing today, and them telling me we're just mapping your brain. Basically, we're making you think the way you thought when you were a kid. And I heard some clowns say, yeah, it's child play, huh? Child play. They were like saying the things that are supposed to be negating the clear, obvious manipulation of the brain. I'm supposed to think, are they making me think the way I thought I was as a child? Which is not true. I wasn't thinking like that, but they're bringing up what I did as a child, this impulsive acts that never happened again. Or are they doing the things they tend to do to other target individual? Let me think. Let me be critically thinking here. And you hear them just like, yeah, nah, children, we're just mining your brain. No, you're not mining my brain. You are manipulating my brain and finding how you can make me identify with these manipulations. And what they do, as I'm clearly understanding, they're just playing with my brain to have these experiences. They are designing these experiences to happen this way because they want me to have these disgusting experiences and then try to make me identify to these disgusting experiences that they are forcing me to experience. And you're going to hear these people speaking about why are they doing these things? Why is the purpose of having these disturbing tactics? And you're going to clearly hear him say that, okay, well, what's happening here? And why target individuals are being utilized is they understand that the weapon system of the future will consist of technology that attacks the body and the mind remotely using energy, a precise technology that can harm somebody without just destroying a whole building. They can harm a human being immediately, the ultimate weapon system. And so when it comes to breaking you down and using this technology as a weapon system, they have these tactics that seems to make sense if the goal is to break somebody down. So what makes sense if you're weaponizing a technology that alters the mind? You make them have these experiences, which one has described it as the pedophilia type of torture, forcing you to have sexual arousals towards children, and then try to vilify that person for the experiences that this technology is forcing that person to have, and try to make them identify with this. Well, you know what it will do? It breaks down the target individual, and they're supposed to make you identify with these false experiences, meaning the experiences that I have manipulated. It's so obvious. So this is an example here, and it's funny that this is actually They it's truly disturbing, but it's comical at the same time. What's laughable here is this little girl. First of all, there's a dog, and she started screaming like, you know how little girls scream. "Eh!" This gives me a disgusting stimulation. Ew. Matter of fact, you're gonna hear that they not only can give you sexual arousal, but they can make you actually have like, they can make you release fluid, like use the restroom. Immediately they give me stimulation, and immediately I start feeling like needing to go to the restroom, which is disgusting. They tend to do that when they stimulate me. Then there's like they combine it with you going to the restroom. It's so disgusting the way they rewire you in this way, but you're gonna hear that. It's disturbing. It's like they can, when they have you to have this sexual stimulation, you have to, like, to go to the restroom, or somehow the bladder is played with at the same time. Now, in this case, I don't think I even used the restroom throughout the day, or I drank some water, so my bladder is full. So at some point I would need to go to the bathroom, but it seems like what they do triggers the bladder to react to. I don't know why exactly they manipulate, but this is something they like to do. Now, and in my brain there's mental battles, which you're gonna hear somebody talks about it. But I see this kid starts screaming. They give me stimulation, like, you know, like a kid screaming, like, you know, like that. They've been doing that where every time I hear a little girl or like a kid scream like that, they have me have sexual stimulation, playing my sexual arousal using this technology. That can do that easily. Actually, that's not even the sophisticated aspect of this technology, meaning that's something they could do it a long time ago. These emotions and experiences that's like even sexual arousals, not really the latest and most sophisticated aspect of this technology. What you're gonna hear is more sophisticated is the thought process. In the way they can play with that. That's where the sophistication comes in. But they stimulate me, and then the kid stop and look, and I don't know. This kid does look kind of funny, right? She's a little girl, but she has this like funny look about her. She got this like cringe, like the Grinch kind of face. Nothing wrong with her, and I think that it kind of messed with the way they could manipulate me, because the funny face of this child kind of negated the way they would manipulate me. They've done it to others, but because I think this kid has a very expressive face that is kind of funny. She's got kind of like a mean face, who's like kind of serious face of a child. I don't know. When I look, the face kind of stopped the manipulation. I don't know, like you know, if it's just like her facial expressions are a little very, very exaggerated, in the sense that she's kind of funny looking, right? But you know, but that stimulation ended, or at least they stopped this manipulation to happen, right? And I know it's them really controlling that. They can really crank it up, decrease it, increase. Like the goal is for them to think that they want you to think that they're not manipulating you. So if you don't experience the more intense stimulation, it's because they just minimized it. They minimize what they can make you experience, or what they're making you experience. So then they create mental battles. Oh no, this little girl's like that. That's why it's not real. But little girls like that is real. So they have these mental battles where they really want you to start assessing how they're doing that. The truth is, they're assessing how they can make you have these experiences, and then make you identify with this. So they have me have these experiences again. And you know, the last few days I've made the same. They've done that from like little girls to the older kids. And so for me, when it's like girls that age, like she looks like she's in between 3, 4, 5. I'll give her between 4 and 5 here. They're like, no, but remember what you did as a kid. 4. It's like, you're just using this act of me doing what I did as a child to make me believe that I'm not being manipulated, or have this retardation of logicalness where, no, we're just mapping mine in your brain as you as a child, and this is why it's happening to you. Stupidity. When it's clearly obvious that they're just altering my brain, manipulating my brain in whatever ways they need to rearrange my brain to experience the design experiences they want me to have, the desire experience they desire for me to experience. And then these clowns around you go through these scripts of things. They talk about how I'm going to be tortured, we're going to frame you, the things that should take my mind away from what they're doing to me, to disorient me, so I cannot logically think of what they're doing to me, brainwashing 101. I did some like very basic googlings, like, okay, what do you do in brainwashing? Disorientation is part of you to overwhelm you to not be able to think logically, because they don't want you to think logically. They really want you to think, oh my gosh, I should feel guilty, even though this level of validation is what I have. It's clear. Now, what you're going to hear there, you're going to hear that the government has been developing this technology for so long. Since the 60s, they've been programs specifically for the goal of altering the mind. You're going to hear men describing this technology that can come in two different aspects, where they not only can clone the brain of somebody else, implant it in your brain, and then make you think the way somebody else is thinking. But also the technology where they just capture your brain signals, manipulate the brain signals, change them to have this design experience that they want you to have, and put it back in your brain so you experience what they designed for you to experience. And then talking about this like brain that can be recreated via this device, you're going to hear this man describing this technology. And it's funny, they have these ways of rewiring your brain, right? Because you're going to hear that, this technology can be utilized for very foul ends or something like that, right? And the word ends in my brain is flipped to hands, because they'd be like, oh, you used her hands, basically talking about an exaggeration version of what I did when I was in middle school, of what I did to myself, and then try to exaggerate to the point like you use her hands, for the point of negating what this technology and this evil ends that they're utilizing this technology on. And how the goal is to manipulate the brain, and how they have been able to do that. And this man precisely explaining that they capture your brain signals, recreate those, that your brain now is hooked to this device that has created the same brain signals as you. And then this device can be manipulated, and your brain is gonna recreate what these brain signals have created via these devices. And so now your brain does whatever this artificial brain is doing, and you are manipulated in the fashion. And then he goes into it in a better way. Hopefully he'll explain it in a better way that you clearly hear what he's saying here, that you are being manipulated this way. And the old abilities, what's old, what they could easily do is for a while, is just the emotion, make you have sexual arousals, emotions, sad, happy, all that emotions were easy to experience, to make somebody experience. What has gone to more sophisticated, and especially with time of continuously developing this, is thought process. The thought process being manipulated is what has gone to another level of preciseness and precision and refinery. And with time, that's what they get better at. Then you're going to hear a man called Robert Duncan, who have spent a lot of his time, may he rest in peace, he died last summer, wrote books about it. And he goes into, well, what they're doing here is they are rewiring the brain and the thought process of a target individual. And it's like a information warfare of just trying to break down the target individual, to walk them to their death, or drive them into insanity, or just make them give up. And they utilize these different tactics and techniques of trying to trick the target individual in these ways. For me, trick me into thinking I'm not being manipulated. They're just observing my thoughts. They're just reading my brain that's not being manipulated. All kind of disturbing things. That's just stupid. It just... I'm too old at this point to think that I'm not being manipulated, because I know myself. They started doing that manipulation when I'm already in my 30s. So at that point, I'm quite reassured who I am. And then you're gonna hear the systematic tactics, the pedophilia type of torture they've done to others. These tactics that are just degrading, and hearing that almost all target individuals are forced, all target individuals with this V2K technology dealing with this pedophilia type of torture. It becomes so obvious. And at the end, you're going to hear why would they do that, where it's clear. If the future weapon systems are going to be that kind of weapon systems. This means that we're just test subjects of the future warfare, of the weaponry that's going to be utilized in the future warfares. And that's why it's happening to us. And that's why so much effort is applied onto what they're doing to us. Why this whole ecosystem is created around us, or why so much effort is done in this ways, and why everybody's playing this retarded. Listen to the obviousness here.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior.
Of innocent citizens being controlled by government-sanctioned experiments? Is Cheryl Welch telling the truth, or are her claims absurd? Just another conspiracy theory that's impossible to prove? Maybe. But not if you listen to Nick Begich.
I think there's some good evidence that Cheryl Welch and many of the other people I've spoken with have been victimized by this electromagnetic mind control experiments. The weapons of this century aren't bombs and bullets and ordnance, but electromagnetic energy targeting the human being, which is a greatest revolution in military affairs since gunpowder.
Begich is an expert in government mind control. He is convinced the Pentagon has mastered a technology once thought to be science fiction, the ability to broadcast information directly into the human brain.
Our government began spending a lot of time looking at how to modify behavior of human beings. Going back to the Korean War, in fact, in a publication, Low-Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, they have a chapter on electromagnetic weapon systems, being able to not just to debilitate someone, but actually even to stimulate certain activities within the brain.
But how?
HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which started as a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy. This is a very large array or field of antennas based in Alaska, radio frequency antennas.
HARP antennas transmit powerful radio signals into the upper atmosphere to study the effects on wireless communications. But Begich says HARP can also be used for more sinister ends.
HARP has announced several other programs and campaigns, and there's two areas that I got very concerned about. One was weather modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings. If you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade within the brain and the emotions change. Now the resolution gets finer and finer and finer. And it used to just to be about triggering emotions. You could change people's brain chemistry pretty readily, change their emotional state pretty easily. But when you get down to the idea of thoughts and being able to manipulate those, that requires a different kind of sophistication.
Can we hear sounds?
Designed to interact with the human nervous system in order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. The difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
Mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I've personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I've submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City, alluding to the same thing.
You do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War. You can call it a eugenics program even. But also walk them to their... They want to see if they can... Hyper game theory. How do you... They want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Well, you can't control me. I have my own free will.
V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting, disgusting, disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa.
They use they use these monarch style torture programs, like it's based on sex and trauma. So they're gonna traumatize you, they're gonna use your libido to get back at you, and
this technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal.
Experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams.
That why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds,
personalities,
and it's like Chinese torture. I mean, this. Yeah. Okay, so.
Disturbing pedophilia type of images and
they have been making on me with their psychotronic relating to certain regions in the brain they can in addition to this kind of implanting information that they need, they manipulate the psyche so that the information is written into your memory. Then by stimulating the certain regions in the brain they can retrieve this information and present it as your own memory. This is the conclusion that can be made judging by the influence they have been making on me with their psychotronic weapons, for example artificial thoughts, imagination, and mental torture.